once you're communicating with law enforcement, there's the risk of leakage. You've now perhaps waived some information by sharing it with a third party. You also have to be careful about sharing information about customers, sensitive information about your customers with law enforcement. So in that instance, you would perhaps want to require a subpoena for that information. So there are a number of different concerns. At the end of the day, it's my job to lay them out for my client, and they will make the ultimate business decision on whether they want to bring law enforcement in.
Okay. Yes. I'd add that there's a huge issue of client expectations. And for the forensic side, when law enforcement is brought in, which is fine by us, whichever forensic vendor you use should be using techniques and methodologies which will stand up in court and which law enforcement can run with. But what we see time and time again, especially when there's a less experienced breach coach involved, is the insured or the client who slams the brakes on forensics because the U.S. taxpayer is going to pick up the tab. They expect law enforcement to run with the ball and to produce miracles. And usually when we work in a team, we can all explain to the client that it's great, law enforcement is there may be some information sharing, but law enforcement's not going to resolve the situation and resolve your breach. You're still going to have to pay for that forensics, or somebody's going to have to pay for that.
One is that law enforcement's interest will depend upon the facts, so it has to be something that they want to pursue in terms of enforcement. Two, if they decide to pursue it, I've had a couple of cases where they want business people from my client to testify at trial. So if it's a crime that actually goes to trial, that business people end up testifying, so think about all the publicity that comes with that. And then third and finally, it helps with the AGs. So if the law enforcement's involved, if they're involved in looking over the shoulder, even if they're really not, but it seems like they are, it helps when you go and speak with the AGs.
The way I like to run my show is that I like to stay on top of what's going on. I don't pass judgment. I'm not the decision maker. Mm-hmm. Sure, it's the decision maker. I'm the facilitator. Mm-hmm. And I try to be as flexible and adaptive as possible to the scenario. So I don't cringe, as long as I know what's going on so that I'm not reacting a month later, but that's a function of me as a claim handler.
Right.
Ozzy, you can.
I can start. Well, a lot of the mechanics are similar. You have to send out notifications. You have to set up a call center. You have to provide some kind of credit monitoring or identity monitoring, something to help the people affected. You need, at the very beginning, a forensic component to confirm the population and things like that. But really, the facts and circumstances of every event make them quite different. And having worked on as many, at least as I have, it's easy to think of them as sort of this monolithic event that basically is the same exact thing no matter what industry, but it's really not. You have different regulators being involved. You have different state laws, maybe different industries altogether that have their own requirements. You have so many different things that the population affected tends to actually drive the response of what's going to happen and not happen.
And I look at every data breach as a fingerprint. Everyone is different. I mean, they've got a lot of similarities, but every data breach is different. One of the most common misconceptions is, you know what, if you read in the paper somebody that had a data breach of 5,000 individuals versus somebody that hit the front page of the Wall Street Journal, 5 million individuals, they're thinking, man, the one with 5,000 probably didn't cost them anywhere near as much as the 5 million. Well, in all actuality, when you look at the legal work that has to go into a case, you look at the forensics work, it's really not volume driven or volume dependent. It is when you get to my level or Ozzy's level, but really on the front end, that breach for 5,000 might have cost more forensically or legally to get to that point than the one for 5 million.